All righty, gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live streaming again, and we are back once again. Lee and Clarence, welcome. How are you guys?
Really good, really good. And Kyle is as the monitor voice from the Outer Limits or
Yes, yes.
something. You good?
I'm a disembodied artificial intelligence. There you go.
Hey, some of my favorite people are disembodied artificial intelligences.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. Well, we are streaming live on various channels, and that says
What does it say?
Black Girl Magic.
Black girl magic.
How
See,
cool is that?
you learn something new about Clarence every day.
Yes, indeed. And and this is a red shirt day, and that is so cool. I just saw discussing Trek with his red shirt on. That's really really cool.
Yeah, which means I probably won't make it through the show. So, yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
Nope. Well,
well,
that's like a urban myth of the original series. It's actually not statistically red shirts who get it, but there are two episodes where they just go like that, and that's where everybody gets the gets the impression. But yeah, that's right. I'm going Voyager neutral here.
Voyager
Ooh,
neutral.
good
Yeah.
deal.
Nice.
Good deal. All right, well, gentlemen, I know we are streaming, but we are here actually to record an episode of Discussing Who that will be streamed now, but will be broadcast per podcast a little bit later on. Not too much later, hopefully,
Yeah.
but later still. So, gentlemen, let's do what we're here for. Let's get right into it. So, for everyone listening, just FYI, if you're watching this later after we were recording, when we always in the past have recorded our podcast on Skype, before we get started, one of the things that I always say in chat is, well, here we go
Here we go
again.
again.
So here, Doctor Who fans, you'll know what I mean by that. But as always, here we go again. The Discussing Network presents Discussing Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Kyle Jones, and I want to start this week by welcoming back Lee Shackelford. Mr. Shackelford, how are you?
I'm very well, and hope you guys are the same. Just glad to be back here talking about Doctor Who with you.
Indeed, indeed. And we wouldn't be discussing who without being able to say, welcome back, Clarence Brown. Mr. Brown, how are you?
I'm doing great. And as always, glad to be here and can't wait to hear you guys' thoughts on this episode that we're reviewing today.
Indeed, indeed. But before we get started, just curious, I don't have any news. I have been literally under the lake before the flood with work lately. I don't know which one you want to call that, but I have been
Yep.
a little busy and I've not seen any Doctor Who news. Do you have anything, either of you, to share before we get started?
Well, we did have the one casting of award-winning actress and singer. Is it? I don't know if I'm saying the name right. Jinx Monsoon is joining the cast of Doctor Who
Oh,
in Broadway actor, I guess. I don't really know much about the actual person, but it was an announcement that that person would be joining Doctor Who.
Interesting.
I feel like I know that name from somewhere. And this is what Google is for, right?
Indeed, indeed.
Winner of RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes, I think I
Oh,
read that.
yes,
Yes.
that's right. And in fact, Jinx is coming to my neighborhood here.
Now,
Okay, huh.
Jinx is American, right?
I
If
believe
I'm,
so. Charlotte, North Carolina, I believe.
so I really hope that they keep their eyes open for someone who I know has had a interest in being at least appearing on Doctor Who for quite a while, and that would be none other than the one and the only Whoopi Goldberg.
Hmm.
So that would be awesome if they at least were to cast her in something. And we do have a comment from let's see, that is YouTube from the Doctor Who show saying, good to see you, gentlemen, and have a good chat. Well, to the Doctor Who show, cheers. Thank you for joining us on wherever that is. That is YouTube. And I'm telling you guys, my brain is kind of disconnected tonight. So just bear with me. All right. So, Clarence, if we have someone who is listening who has never listened to us before and would like to subscribe, what do you like to tell people?
Well, you can subscribe anywhere podcasts are sold, if they're sold, in fact. But yeah, anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find us. And I'll just say thank you. If you do subscribe, we really appreciate it. And you can also support the show by not only subscribing, but also by leaving a review and telling a friend.
Indeed. And Mr. Shackelford, something you always like to say for people who are watching us, whether it's first time, whether it's the almost 300th time, what do you like to say?
We like to say, get out now while you can. Run! When I say run. No, we like to say thank you for being here because we know you got other things you could be doing with your time and you've chosen to be with us. And we really appreciate it. We like your company.
Indeed, indeed. Well, gentlemen, since we don't have any other news and we are here to review a Series 9, 2015 series of Doctor Who episode, I think it's important at this point that I say, if you have not seen Before the Flood, put us on pause, go out, watch the episode, come back, because from this moment forward, spoilers. Alrighty, the spoiler warning has gone out, and we are back to review Before the Flood. This is the 4th episode of the 2015 series of Doctor Who, first airing on the 10th of October, 2015. It starred Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor and Jenna Coleman as Clara Oswald. So, Clarence, I want to start with you. Summary review. What say you?
Summary review for me. There were certainly parts of this episode I really loved. I think it started out the gate strong, especially coming off of that great cliffhanger we got from the last episode. Started off real strong. I did feel like it meandered a bit in the middle, but for me, it does all those things that Doctor Who does that I love. We played with time. We saw ourselves in the distance. We did all this timey-wimey stuff. And all of those things are the reason I love Doctor Who. Whenever we do it abundantly in an episode, I'm happy. So I think I enjoyed it.
Okay, Lee, what say you?
Same. I'm with Clarence. I always enjoy when our time travel show actually deals with time travel, and its peculiarities. And I also agree that sometimes we just. Well, I was when we were reviewing Survival, I was saying that from the very beginning, the show has sometimes filled in time by having people running around, and there's some running around, and that maybe we could have done without, but sometimes it's really exciting, and just all in all, I enjoyed it. And after we got off the air last time, I said, "Oh, I know who's in the suspended animation shoot."
Ding, 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 ding.
And I felt so smart.
What a shock. Such a good shock on that.
What a
one,
great
man.
twist, though.
Yeah. Good grief.
So I have to, as always, agree with the two of you, but I will add that I found myself lacking with the Fisher King. And I was not impressed by the character. I was impressed by the character design, but I was not impressed by the character. And Clarence, I want to follow up on something that I said on our sister show discussing Trek. I've been basically blasting the character of Series 3, the bad guy character, every episode pretty much that she's been on. I like her better than I like the Fisher King. I didn't find the Fisher King to be enough of a threat to me, at least the way I saw it. You guys may disagree, but we will get into it. But I want to start at the beginning. And Lee, I want to point this to you first. in the beginning of this episode, we see something very rarely in TV, honestly. I mean, I know it happens a lot more than we probably think it does now that I said that, but breaking the fourth wall. As a writer, what do you think of this trope of breaking the fourth wall? Do you like it? Did it work? What's your thoughts?
I never quite know what to think about it. I guess it hits me differently every time, but this is almost a Stephen Moffat signature, is that he tells stories that have narrators. Very often there's just an off-screen voice who sets the story up for us once upon a time. And no other writer for Doctor Who does that. And he has characters address the camera, which has happened once or twice in the classic series, but it was an aberration, you know. But yeah, he has the Doctor talking to us and posing the whole "Who wrote Beethoven's Fifth" thing. And then I hope you notice, then we go into a different version of the opening title theme, this time heavily laced through with actually Peter Capaldi playing that electric guitar.
Nice.
So he is, which leaves him as the only Doctor Who actor to actually perform the Doctor Who theme on his show.
Yay.
Yeah. I'll tell you something else, Kyle, as long as I've got the mic. Follow this for excitement. I was puzzled by the name the Fisher King.
Okay.
And I knew that I had heard that before. And I said, this must be a like a Celtic myth that I don't know. So I was looking it up, and places that I looked it up, Wikipedia, took me immediately not to anything that told me, you know, what the story is and why this character would be called that, but reminded me of the film from 30 years ago, Terry Gilliam's film, The Fisher King, which I remember loving in the theater and I haven't seen since. But it stars Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams and a pretty psychotic, crazy lady in it, played by Amanda Plummer.
Interesting.
Wow.
How's that for crossing the streams?
How is that? So, is that a bootstrap paradox that I said that to
That's
prep
right.
you, or which one was it?
So, where did Amanda Plummer come from?
Exactly. Maybe she
Christopher
came,
Plummer.
Maybe so.
No, yeah.
Maybe she came from wherever it is that Clarence is thinking about right now when he says, "What did you think of this breaking the fourth wall?"
I absolutely thought it was fantastic. Capaldi seems so much like a professor to me anyway, and we see that at times in his run. And in any other show, we probably would have got a small interaction between a couple of characters that kind of gave us the moral of what the story would be, kind of foreshadowing what would happen. But I just love like how he just turns and explains it all to us. And yet and still my mind is blown by the end of it, and actually seeing it play out somewhat of how the Beethoven paradox plays out. I absolutely loved it. I absolutely thought it was fantastic, and you know I love when he does that. I don't know any other Doctor I probably would have not been this receptive, but for some reason Capaldi does it for me.
Okay, cool. So before we move on from the first intro, the very first part of this, have a question. I want to see if either of you know the answer to this. We have established that Peter Capaldi can play a guitar. We've got that. We've seen this
Yes,
in
he
the
can.
opening of this series. We've also said, and we may have even mentioned it in our opening when we talked about the guitar. So if I'm repeating ourselves, then, well, I'm just repeating ourselves. But I have a question. Peter Capaldi performed in a band with this late night TV personality. Name the late night TV personality. Lee, you're shaking your head. Clarence, do you know?
I remember that it's true, and I know I'm trying to think.
I think it. Go ahead, Lee.
I'm drawing a blank on his name now. So it was John Stewart, wasn't it?
Nope. Close. He looks a little bit like John Stewart. Craig,
Ferguson.
Oh, Craig Ferguson, of course.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
that's right. Yeah.
who is
Yeah.
a big
Big
Doctor
Whovian.
Who. Yes, yes. So I just thought that was really cool that he's such a big Whovian and he was in a band
That's
with
right.
the 12th Doctor. That's
That is
just
part
like
of his cred. Yeah.
too cool. Too cool.
Yeah, and just quick comment on the guitar in this episode, and just from Capaldi in general. You know, when they release these episodes, they've seen them so many times that things that we might think are bad have had time to settle with them. You know, and they've seen it over. Okay, that really works. You know, they have understanding of what's going on. And my first time seeing Capaldi with the guitar in almost any episode he has in it, I was just totally turned off. Um, didn't want to continue watching the episode because I hated it so much, but it's actually grown on me. And as we have watched these episodes leading up until now, I've enjoyed every time he's had it. You know what? The Sonic shades aren't even bothering me anymore. I don't know what
See?
it is. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'm loving it.
I've wondered about this because we've talked about it before, and I've got a theory I want to try out on you. I think that because there's like 10 years between each of us, right? We're like 60, 50, and 40, basically. And I think in the times that each of us have been growing up, we've been watching our popular entertainment, which is different. But a lot of times we've watched in horror as shows have been um, designed for our age group, and we can tell that it's being designed for our age group. But the writers are a lot older, and they're not quite sure what's cool. So very often they'll take a character that's familiar to this and give them an electric guitar. And I think the more recent version of that is they're going to rap.
Oh God.
And they even reference that in the very smart and funny Rescue Rangers movie, which is all meta. It's all about the business. And so yeah, they have a painful joke about how they've been made to rap over the years. And I just remember like there was an animated Saturday morning version of the sitcom that I grew up with, My Favorite Martian. But the Saturday morning version was My Favorite Martians. So it had the character that we know, but he also has a teenage sidekick, and they both play electric guitar, which makes no sense anyway. And it just felt like it was somebody's cringe-worthy attempt to make them cool and relatable for today's young audience.
Yeah.
So all of which is to say, is that still our gut reaction when we see Doctor Who pull out his electric guitar? You go, oh no, you don't need to try to make him cool. He's cool already.
Yeah.
Bah.
Yeah.
And now he's got sunglasses on.
Yeah. That was one too far at first for me, the sunglasses. I'm like, y'all are
Yeah.
really trying hard. Really. But you learn some things. You learn he really can play the guitar. He's in a band, and that skill is more inherent to who he is, and you kind of accept it a little bit,
That's it.
We can still argue about the shades, but it's a thing.
Yes. I mean, yeah, that's right. If they let Sylvester McCoy play the spoons, then they should be able to let I don't know.
Oh, I like this.
yes.
So our friends from the Doctor Who show say, when the future of the show doesn't feel like it's hanging on the episode in front of us, a lot of stories and concepts are easier to accept.
True.
I like many stories more 5 years plus after they go out. That is very, very true.
I think we found that again and again while we've been going through some of these. We're going, I remember hating this. What happened?
Well,
Yeah.
if we watched it in 2005 and now it's almost 2025, 20 years adds a lot of perspective.
That's right.
Perspective. And, I have said so many times when it comes to Capaldi, if you look in the New Who era and you look at character arcs, he, even up through the 13th Doctor, and as much as I love 10, he has more of a character growth arc, in my opinion, than any of these 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 have had. You take first episode, you take his final, and it's a completely night and day.
Yeah.
you know.
So that
And
was more of a priority for that character.
and tying it back to the shades and the guitar for me, I think this is that character, that iteration of the Doctor relaxing a little bit and exploring who he wants to be.
Well, yeah, yeah. For the sake of our audio version, by the way, that comment came from the Doctor Who show, the
Yes, indeed it
about
did.
liking stories more 5 years after they go out. Yeah, it's a great observation.
So let me, you said for our audio listeners. Oh, I like that.
Sorry,
I have to know. What did you drop? That's too
it's
funny.
just the top from my bottle. That's all.
Oh,
He has a bottle.
did you let the genie out of the bottle?
Oh
Cha-ching!
dear.
I couldn't resist.
Almost, I let the gin out of the bottle.
Okay, there you
Even
go.
better.
It's a pun.
All right. So I was prepping my segue before we heard some more sound, but
Yes.
but I'm going to change my segue and say, we heard the sound, we heard the thing on the ground, but there were scenes where there were no sound. And I'll start by
Yes.
talking about this because I loved this, being hearing impaired myself, knowing that they did it so freaking well when the character of Cass is walking and this ghost is dragging the axe behind her.
Mhm.
And I keep wondering to myself, is she going to feel the vibration?
Mhm.
Is that what is going to be her moment to turn
Yeah.
around because she feels something as opposed to hearing something? Curious to what you guys thought. Clarence, why don't you go first?
I mean, I loved it, and it's almost like as of right now, I've seen deaf characters on so many shows. I think as a whole, people have become more familiar with these characters and kind of the techniques you can use around them. For instance, we have the lady from Walking Dead. We had I think Echo on the Hawkeye series. So you kind
Oh,
of see
yeah.
the cool techniques they can use around the character, and I just thought it was fantastic. Where we're gonna let you live with that in that character for a moment, just cut everything, and just observe like that character would. So yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was well played, and just a great opportunity for representation that I thought was really well done.
Lee, I'm going to tweak that question a little bit for you
Mhm.
from a writer's perspective. How do you feel they did on a success scale of representing someone who was hearing impaired, and your thoughts?
Oh, I think it's completely brilliant, and I think the writer concocting that sequence is hoping that the audience is empathetic enough, is empathic enough that they'll get inside her head, and then we'll be shouting at the screen as if she could hear us. Put your hand on the floor. Touch the floor, because we're feeling that's what she would ordinarily do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just waiting for her to do it. It builds the tension beautifully. And then she does it and she gets the reaction we know she's going to. And it saves her life. It's brilliant.
And if I may add, I know we shouldn't give them our favorite scene right now, but one of my favorite scenes, probably my favorite, is when she like I can't read sign language, but she does something to Clara, and Clara's like, "Oh, I don't have to know sign language to know what that means," and then walks into chambers. Yeah, that was great.
That's right. It's off camera. Oh,
So let me ask you guys a question, and I'm not going to give any preference, um, any other thoughts other than the question itself. Then I will follow up with my own thoughts. The character of O'Donnell, and Lee, I'll start with you.
hmm.
What did you think about the character of O'Donnell?
Well, I think we're talking about the writing again. I think that we're primed to really like her and to empathize with her and to be completely on board with her, right? From the moment that we see her fangirling over the doctor. Yeah. So we're hoping, you know, she's going to get out of this okay. And, that becomes part of a writer's bag of tricks. Once you've got the audience all on board with that, yank the carpet out from under them.
Mm. Clarence, what do you think?
I was kind of furious.
Yeah.
Like Lee said, they did so much to make us like this character being a fangirl of the Doctor. And we see where she has her semi little love story going in this episode as well. And lo and behold, we try to get her to stay back in the TARDIS, but she's such a fangirl, she had to go. And yeah, it's just it really upset me to see her not make it. And not only that, a la Father's Day, we got the opportunity to save her a few minutes later, but no, you can't. You can't
Yeah.
do it.
Can't do it.
Yeah. So, man.
All right. So for me, I really liked her, and you guys had the reaction that I did. I, posed the question specifically the way I did because I wanted to not give my opinion first. But yes, I agree with everything you just said, and I think this is one time, and maybe it was just the character, but I remember commenting in our review of Last Christmas. Yeah, yes, it was Last Christmas that I did not like the way the character of Shauna felt like she was kind of pushed down your throat. Like you got to accept her.
Yeah.
And you got to like her. Well, and I didn't. But this character didn't make me feel, even though I knew that that's what Moffat was doing, I wanted to like her. I liked her. And was even thinking, wow, what a cool dynamic to have had a third person along with Clara and the Doctor. I know that's not what happened, obviously, but I think it was very well done that we all three had the same or similar reactions.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys, let's go on into the Fisher King. And Lee, why don't I start with you? Thoughts about the Fisher King, his overall plan, and anything regarding Fisher King that you want to bring up? Thoughts?
Um, I got almost nothing except the observation that it seemed like this is a Doctor Who meme or trope, that there's something really interesting going on in the story, and we find out that it's all the machinations of a higher power, and then we meet that higher power and they're really not as interesting as what it was that they were doing. Does that make sense? At least that's my observation. That um, well, the one that comes to mind is the great intelligence and the flesh eating snowmen. But that's a bad example because the great intelligence is fascinating. But I'm thinking there's just a lot of other stories where we say we've got to find out, who's causing this, and then we meet them, and it's like, oh, okay,
They're like,
and
really?
really, yeah, all right. Can we go back to the other thing that was? So I don't know. It does seem like the show does that a lot, and it feels like it always falls so flat that I wonder why they keep doing it. But I'd love to hear from other people about that if they
Well,
feel
we've
like that's
got
something
another person right here, and I want to know,
yeah.
Clarence Brown, what do you think?
Oh yeah.
Man, I think for me, scarcity would have been better. Or maybe not even seeing the Fisher King. Because I feel like it was more in fear when they said, "Oh, this big tall being is in this stasis chamber." He's really tall, long, isn't he? And of course, they tried their best to make a kind of cool design. I hated the design myself, and uh, right with Lee, I just felt all of the moments where we were actually hiding from him and actually the Doctor confronting him. All of that was just completely uninteresting. Much less interesting than the timey-wimey aspects of the episode. And I know we had to have this to get that, but and I'm not even sure that I'm clear on what his ultimate plan was.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because neither am I. Neither am I. That was my next question. So thank
No.
you. I don't get his ultimate plan. Do you, Lee?
No, I was thinking about this just yesterday. That I was wondering, did I miss something? Because the directions tell them how to get to the Earth. Well, they're already on the Earth. So what did I miss?
Yeah.
So a lot of it was kind of like that. It was like, okay, so he's here and he's doing this. Why? I, I
And
don't
the
know.
people are amplifying the beacon or
Hmm.
the
To,
signal
yeah.
to get to where they already are.
Well, if they're sending out to more of their kind, then that makes sense. If they're saying, you know, here's where the good eating is or whatever,
Yeah.
then, but I,
Hmm.
if that was the point, I think I missed it.
So if the Fisher King was not in the tomb casket thing,
Hmm.
we are left to assume that he is washed away during the flood. That am I understanding that right? That flood waters where he's holding his hands out like welcoming the water
Mm.
ultimately kills him, right?
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, I kind of lost track of that too, I'm
Yeah.
afraid.
And that's due to the doctor going back and setting off a charge from his ship, which the doctor would have never went back to do if it wasn't missing. So it starts this whole thing, which I love about the episode, is the chicken
Yeah,
before the egg, the timey
right.
wimey, or this paradox that he talked about at the top of the episode. It's almost like with Janeway in Star Trek when they talk about time episodes. Just don't think
Mhm.
about it; it'll hurt your brain.
Just right.
But this episode has something unique, at least for me, because we've often made the comparison to two-parters that your first part of the two-parter feels like it's nothing more than a build, and then you
Mm.
get your payoff in the second part.
Mm.
If I were to compare, and this is just for me, and you guys feel free to disagree, but if I were to compare my enjoyment, my being brought into the story, my attention being kept from part one to part two by far to me outshines, no, excuse me, part one
Mm.
by far outshines part two for me. Because if I were to say which was more engrossing, which caught my attention, the hollow eyed ghost looked much more menacing,
Mm.
much more fearful than the Fisher King did.
Mm. Agreed.
Hmm. Yeah, I think if you're talking about from a pure
Mm.
antagonist point of view, definitely.
Mm.
But I think in this episode, what I love is we get to see things play out. We go back and see the Undertaker or whatever the I forget his name in the episode. We get to see him alive.
Mm.
So and I just love how things in the past are playing toward things in the future that we see in the second episode.
Mm.
So I feel like for me, within both of these episodes, there's a good 60 minutes that could have been condensed and thrown out some of these things that
Mm.
I think were just kind of useless to stretch out the episode.
So another good single episode that they made a two-parter out of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I might would have enjoyed it a little bit more if you would have cut out the scenes with the Fisher King entirely and just
Hmm.
had these mystery ghosts that you never
Yeah.
explained. And you had this whole paradox with time. I would much rather have had just the mystery of you didn't know where they came from. He's in, and it goes back to you created the event created itself by him going back, and then that's the premise. You never know, and it could have ended with him and Clara talking and saying, "Clara, it doesn't matter what the cause was; it's the effect of what happened," or something like that. That would have
Hmm.
been cool.
Yeah. I feel like there's no reason why the people who came to Earth in the first place couldn't be ghosts as well that looked the same way and were simply adding to their numbers, right?
So let me ask
We
you
don't
guys.
need another character for that, you know.
So let me
But
ask you guys a question about the ghost, real quick.
mhm,
At the end, there, the Doctor Ghost and the Doctor both exist, right?
mhm. Right,
At least in that moment, because they
right,
said that they would dissipate. But I
yeah,
did remember that correctly. They both exist in their time stream. Okay.
yes. But I
Wait, say
think
that. Say that again, because you just confused me.
don't think about it.
Doctor Ghost and Doctor Ghost and Doctor
The Doctor
all,
Ghost was a hologram.
it wasn't real. It wasn't a ghost. It was a Doctor hologram.
Yeah, he
Well,
explains it off as being a hologram created by Sonic Shades
Oh, I missed that.
at the very end.
and as we expected, the we knew that there aren't any real ghosts in this, right? There's no supernatural on Doctor Who. So he did also explain that they're all electromagnetic projections.
Mm.
Mm.
So he just made another one.
Yeah.
So we have another comment from our friends
Yeah.
at the Doctor Who show. They say, if I recall, the first four stories of this series were all two-parters, and they all felt like they had a distinct first and second part rather than parts that ran together as one story. They are completely correct. That is true. The stories were two-parters in series 9, with the
Mhm.
exception of the finale, which you could pretty much say was a three-parter, in my
Yeah.
opinion, finale. So,
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. The three two-parters and a three-parter.
and a three-parter.
Um, yes. Yeah, you're exactly right. And we'll get to it, but it's one of the things I don't like about this season. So, but it's a great observation that they're not so much continuations of the same story, but they're like um, two related stories, same characters, same timeline. Because under the before the flood is not a base under siege story, is it? We're
Mm.
we're outside the base, and it becomes a time travel story
Yeah.
about what had happened in the base under siege story. So they're very different, and maybe that's why we're having trouble figuring out which one is the stronger because it's apples and oranges.
Indeed.
Which, and I'll
Um,
just add real quick, which is really cool to be in the same location, well, supposedly the same
right.
location, and it just hasn't flooded yet. I thought that was
Hmm.
an excellent concept in this episode.
You know, that reminds me of I believe it was the third Doctor who went to the planet Paladin. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Peladon.
Paladin, yes.
Yeah.
And he goes with Joe the first time and Sarah the second.
Mhm.
And there's like 100 years that have passed between his, or not, maybe not 100, but there's a big time gap that has happened in between his first and second visits, which is reminiscent in a way to the goings on in this particular story. So I
Mhm.
think that's interesting.
And pays homage to the original time travel story in H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. The time traveler never leaves the spot. Well, the machine gets dragged at one point to another place, but for the most part, he's in the same place always. But he goes through
Mm.
800,000 years of time
Mm.
and the world changes around him. But to me, that was, and I was introduced to that at a very early age. So to me, that is one of the most mind blowing ideas possible is to watch the world change through millennia
Yes.
from sitting in a Victorian chair. And yeah. So then I learned that there was a whole TV show with this kind of stuff
Mm.
in it. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I want to ask you guys a question because I've come to the end of my notes and I want to ask a question before we get into our favorites. Do either of you have any more topics about this particular episode that you would like to cover before we get to our favorites?
It's a tiny little thing, but it's still evocative. I watched this the day after we recorded our review of Under the Lake, and then I wanted to refresh my memory. And as the calendar broke out, it was Easter Sunday, and so on Easter Sunday, I watched this episode where at one point they're looking for the dead guy, and they open this thing up, and he's not there. but the
Wow.
but the clothes that he was wrapped up in are there.
Mm.
I said, well, that's interesting. Anyway,
It is interesting. You and I were watching it then on the same day, and I didn't bring it up, but yes, I thought that
you
too.
had the same thought.
I thought too. I was
It's
like,
like
Are you being a little bit
don't-
on the nose here?" But
right. Don't look for him. He is not here.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the doctor was in stasis hundreds of years. So this adds to his age, I guess.
Or do you age in there?
Oh well, yeah, good point.
Well, I mean, time passes. It's
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well, look at Amelia Pond. She stayed in the Pandorica for 2,000 years.
That's right.
So, hey,
Sh-
if she can do it,
Is she
he,
2,000 years old? Yeah.
yeah, if she can do it, he can do it. Hey, who knows? She may get old enough. She needs, like some cybernetic implant, shave her head, do all that good stuff. Turn
Yes.
blue, look a little
Turn
Smurfy.
blue.
Yeah. Who knows? Fly into a nebula. I don't know. But
That's
what I do know is it's time for our favorites. And I want to start with our favorite quote. And I'll start this one because honestly, no matter how hard I tried, I came without a favorite quote. I don't have one. So that's my favorite quote. I couldn't find one.
I don't have one.
So I will let silence fall for my favorite quote. Lee Shackelford, favorite quote.
I love O'Donnell saying, "The last person who said that to me got dangled out of a window."
Oh, she went all Suge Knight on him.
Yeah. we love her.
All righty. So fresh off of Unit Row Records, Clarence, what was your favorite quote?
I love the opening monologue with the doctor breaking the fourth wall, and I love this little bit he says when he says, "This is called the bootstrap paradox. Google it."
I like that. Well, even though I didn't have a favorite quote, I did have a favorite scene, and for its uniqueness, because it's something that doesn't happen often in Doctor Who, my favorite scene is that opening scene where he does break the fourth wall. And I just realized he did that again. He did that in Listen, didn't he?
Mhm.
He did indeed do that with
No,
the chalkboard and Listen.
Right.
I had forgotten about that.
Being the
But
professor. Yeah.
anyway, it's still my favorite scene. I thought it was cool, but
Yeah. But not unique. No.
but not as unique as now that I'm realizing. But
No.
yes, that's my favorite scene. So Clarence, favorite scene. What say you?
My favorite scene is going to be when Clara says, "I don't need to know how to sign," or something to that effect, to know what you're saying. When was it Cass?
Yes.
Was very upset with her letting her love interest go off, to find the phone. So
All
yeah.
right. Favorite scene, Lee Shackelford.
I'm such a sucker, but I love when Bennett told Lun, "Tell her that you're in love with her and that you always have been." What? Tell her there's no point in wasting time because things happen and then it's too late. Tell her, "I wish someone had given me that advice." And Lun passes it on. And then Lun says, "Oh, God, no, I was just passing on what he and she kisses him. Okay.
Well played.
I love that stuff. Yeah.
Good
I love
scene.
scenes like that. And there's one just like it in Relativity. Did I swipe that from here? I don't know.
I'm going to say no because there
Anyway.
are only so many different stories out there, and
That's true.
there you go. But one story that I know to be true is Lee Shackelford, the story of your final rating. What say ye?
It's got problems, but I do love it. I'm going to give it 4 busts of Beethoven out of 5.
All right, Clarence
Do-do-do-do.
Brown. 4 we have. What say ye?
I'm going to give it 4.3 missing power cells.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it. This just came to me. I'm going to give it 3.75 Fisher King and chips out of 5.
Fisher King and
And
chips.
There
What
you
a
go.
revolting idea.
Yes, indeed. I don't know. That's just what came to me. I can't explain it. It's a gift.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's it. I don't think that I am a big fan of this one, but I will tell you that I had written down 2.75 before we started talking. So you guys helped raise the bar, so to speak. So
That's
that
one of our jobs, I feel
that
like.
is it. The
That's
positive
part of what we
guys.
do. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, for everyone listening, well, first let me say for everyone watching, thank you for watching the stream. A big shout out to the Doctor Who show once again for participating with us in the chat. Your thoughts and comments and your time were greatly appreciated. So thank you again. And for everyone listening on audio, as always, we will be back next time. And that, my friends, is it. For everyone watching, thank you again. And thanks for watching, and we'll be back soon.